Hey guys, what's going on? I'm Shorty SX and welcome to Quickscope Tips Episode 2 of the Black Ops 3 season. So today we're going to be talking all about class setups and not just, the best class for quickscoping because you all know there isn't just one set thing. But what I'll actually do is I'll walk you through all of my choices, explain why I've made them, and give you a lot of different options if you want to mess around with your perks because obviously different things are more suitable for different situations. So today should be quite a lot of fun and a little similar to what I did with Ghosts, which was quite well received. So let's get on with it. I've decided to start off with completely blank class and kind of just build it along as I go and explain my choices. So the first one, which I'm sure most of you are kind of wondering about, is what sniper have I been using? And this year it really does seem like it's mostly been leaning towards the Locus, and not just for me, but basically from what I've seen from everybody else. All the snipers in most lobbies, or not all, but like a good part of them, have been using the Locus. And that could just be because, you have to be level, I forget what, pretty high up to actually get the SVG. As you see, I've actually spent a prestige token on it because why not? It's a fun sniper. I really wanted to kind of, give them both a fair chance. And, well, actually, I might even do an entire different video about just the Locus versus the SVG. But in a few words, is basically the classic, ballista versus DSR. Kind of like, the Locus is the slightly faster, more agile sniper, which is a one-shot kill from the waist up, as opposed to the SVG, which has a slightly, larger one-hit kill zone, because it, one-shot kills you from the knee up, which is quite nice, but it's a little slower. Of course, with both snipers, you can actually get increased rate of fire, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. So for now, let's just say we're using the Locust. And, well, did I just say Locust? Okay, StarCraft fans, just ignore me. Okay. Obviously we're gonna go with a nice, beautiful little golden camel. Not because I don't have the diamond, but, it's a me thing. I never seem to be a big fan of the diamond camels. This looks more natural, like an actual gun. Anyway, so that's irrelevant, but, for the attachments, I, as usual, kind of tend to stick with a ballistic CPU, just because, remember, it limits your sway. It's not the most necessary of all, attachments. It's mostly up to the person, but it does help your sway when you're trying to actually land a long-distance, shot, and at the same time, remember that your sniper sway is always there, even when you're quickscoping. So, if you reduce that sway, even with a tiny little amount, it still makes your, quickscopes a little bit more accurate, as in they'll always be a little more to the center. So that's the whole benefit of the ballistic CPU, as has always been for pretty much every COD it's existed in. And for the second attachment, I definitely go with the rapid fire, because the snipers, as you may have noticed compared to some of the previous CODs, are pretty slow in this one. So anything that increases their rate of fire is definitely great in my book. And this is even more useful for the SVG, because that sniper is really kind of slow. Although, to be fair, I have to admit that I've done quite well with, just kind of like the stock SVG without any attachments on it. And even with that, I've been able to succeed. So it's not that slow. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying it's slower than the Locus. Okay, so secondaries obviously don't make a big difference, but I've been going with the RK5 just because it's a very nice, consistent pistol, but the MR6 is also really, really good, and it's honestly, whichever one, it makes no difference when it comes to sniping. The one choice I've kind of changed this year a little bit is I have actually gone with a pistol as opposed to a launcher. As you guys have known from previous Call of Duties, I used to run around with a Stinger type, just to shoot UAVs and things, which is still a great idea. The reason I haven't actually been doing it as much in this Call of Duty is mostly because I'm rushing to get kills a little bit more, because, snipers are a bit more challenging. So every time I feel like I have to swap, to a black cell and then take out a UAV, I'm kind of just wasting time. And I also unlocked Ghost, but we'll get to that a little later. Anyway, black cell also a great option, or, either launcher is a great option if you want to just shoot down UAVs and, kill streaks and stuff like that. But up to you. Again, doesn't really make a big difference. So, the only thing for tacticals and melee lethals, combat axe would be cool, but yeah, I would say the most useful thing has always been the concussion, and still remains that way, because with the choices for your perk 3, not a lot of people will actually take tactical mask, or, it's not like everybody's running around with tactical mask, so concussions remain quite useful. And, they're quite nice when you want to actually kind of be like, okay, instead of flying around, you enemy, just sit there still so I can hit you. Like, anyway, concussion's great. Now, let's get to the actual, biggest or most important choice, which are, of course, your perks. I'm going to start with what are the most important ones for me. I'm definitely going to go with, and this might not be a big shock to a few people, but awareness and dead silence. In fact, as you see, dead silence was the very first thing I used the prestige token on, and by now I've even used the prestige token on my perk 3 greed, even though it's only unlockable like level 13, so that's a bit of a waste, but I'd already unlocked everything I wanted on prestige like 6 or something, so who cares? The point is, awareness and dead silence are pretty much my, stamp of Shorty. Like, that's what I've always used, and they remain just as good in this game. A little bit about both. The first thing is dead silence. I would recommend for everybody, even if you're not, using your headphones or you're just using your TV speakers or something like that. Still use it, or if you don't, go with the Ripper Specialist. But a little bit about that later. The point is, it's actually, footsteps are, again, a big thing in this game, just as, they have been and they should be. So even if you're not the type of person wearing a headset, remember that many people are, in fact, running around with awareness. They will hear you. It's nice when you're actually a little bit more silent. So definitely suggested. So, people are not expecting you, because as a sniper, you really don't want people to be expecting you when you're running around a corner. You want to be that quiet ninja that just slips through and goes poof. Okay, yeah, little thing about awareness. So the thing about it is, without awareness, actually, if we were to just, go bare bones, you would not hear people's footsteps almost at all. That is a little curious, because honestly, first-person shooters, they've always had footsteps for a reason, as part of the whole awareness and knowing where your enemy is coming from type of thing. But in this game, for some reason, if you don't have any awareness, you actually it's almost impossible to hear enemies' footsteps until they're right up on you. So if you have any type of headset or anything, I would really suggest you just take both of these. Now, of course, a variation of this could be you take Blast Suppressor, which is obviously great if you're flying around the map, if you've, changed your button layout so you can actually jump around easier while aiming and things like that. It's a great perk. I'm usually not a fan because, I'm more of a classic Call of Duty player. I don't like to fly around all that much. Not that it's not fun, but it's a different game for me, and I don't use it as much. So in this case, would I love to have it as a third perk? I would, but obviously I can't. So for me, this is really no choice at this point. Just to cover the other obvious ones or kind of nice ones, obviously Engineer is absolutely great if you have any type of an anti-air class, Tactical Mask, any type of domination, objective-based game where you're expecting to get hit or stunned, or even if your enemies are just being painful. Like, this is, again, for you guys who are actually not using headsets, I would totally suggest either Tactical Mask or Blast Suppressor and Dead Silence. Because, make yourself quiet, make sure they don't know where you're coming from, and make yourself harder to stun. So, great. Okay. Probably a little bit too much about that, but again, it's really important. You guys have to get that awareness, and it's one of your senses. And in Call of Duty, you have two. You have your vision. You have, you see your enemy movement, their movement on the screen, and you're like, aha, I see you. And the other main important sense is your sound. And if you're not using it properly, you're really kind of just shooting yourself in the foot. So, for this one, it should also be no surprise that I've been using fast hands quite a bit, because of course, the faster aim after sprinting. Most of you guys who have played other Call of Duties, this will be no surprise to you, because that's always been, a very necessary or a nice perk to have for quickscoping, because, you want to spend less time coming out of sprint, especially considering your weapon takes a good 0.4 seconds to ADS. So, anyway, great perk. Definitely something you want to go with. If for whatever reason you're running with, a perk 2 greed and you need a second one, Tracker is a great option, just because you can, see where enemies have been, things like that. Cold-Blooded, also great. Scavenger I wouldn't really recommend unless you guys are doing really well and somehow not dying until you use up all your sniper ammo, in which case, great job, why are you here? But, yeah. Anyway, fast hand's really the only one I'd stick with. And for perk 1, this is a curious one as well, because as you see I've unlocked Ghost, or I've used the prestige token on it, because I've always liked it. It's a great perk, even though, you know, of course, you have to actually be moving for the Ghost effect to be active, otherwise you still appear on UAVs. But it's still a great perk. And, you know, I'm still a very mobile sniper. I never really stand in one spot and kind of just sit there. So for me, it works most of the time. I have really enjoyed it. However, lately I've actually dropped it in favor of Sixth Sense. And the whole idea with Sixth Sense is that it's absolutely amazing for anybody who's actually sneaking up on you. And the problem with what I'm running right now with Dead Silence and Awareness is that you still don't actually hear, you know, players who have Blast Suppressor on and are kind of just boosting around you. Because they're not making any footsteps, you don't hear the footsteps, and you don't hear the Blast Suppressor, or, you know, their booster, because, anyway, in those kinds of situations, Sixth Sense is absolutely amazing. It's also great for, you know, if you're kind of in a indoor type of situation with, you know, lots of walls and you can actually sense somebody through the wall that's, you know, camping on a corner. It's actually an amazing little perk, which I've grown more and more, you know, happy with. So I would definitely suggest you try it, especially if you're having trouble with, you know, people sneaking up on you, and especially if you're not using a headset, then definitely go with Sixth Sense. Absolutely awesome. Other options, obviously Afterburner if you're flying around, great. Flak Jacket if, again, domination type objective games where you're, you know, sitting and trying to cap something, Flak Jacket, it's a must, it's awesome. Overclock if for whatever reason, you know, you're messing around with your specialist, and you guys know what Blind Eye is. So anyway, that right about covers it with my class. If you guys have any questions about this, of course, drop a comment. I'll be happy to share my thoughts. And as a final, you can, by the way, observe what's the common denominator. Do you kind of notice how, well, actually my perk 2 and perk 3s don't change, but yeah, it's anyway. Like I said, I really need those perks. But for my specialist, just the final thing, I run with Sparrow, or I'm, you know, Vision Pulse Outrider. It's beautiful, it's great, it's non-lethal. But honestly, all of the different specialists, you know, they all have their fun little thing to play around with. Obviously, the non-lethal ones are the ones I normally go for, but honestly, the bow is pretty cool. The one thing I will say about specialists is if you guys are, you know, for whatever reason going with a different perk 3 than Dead Silence, or, you know, you want to go with Blast Suppressor instead, you don't have Dead Silence, or maybe you don't use a headset, or whatever the case may be, just remember that the Reaper's footsteps are actually different. They sound a little more muffled, and trust me, from what, like 6 prestige or something like that, Reaper sneaking up on me has been the biggest issue so far. Even when they don't actually have Dead Silence, and that's the biggest issue, because I hear everybody around me just fine, and all of a sudden this Reaper is like, you know, I'm like, oh crap, there's someone like right behind me. And again, this is where Sixth Sense actually, you know, does quite a bit of good, but again, the Reaper, not that I'm really in favor of this tactic, but, you know, you guys should know about it. The Reaper's footsteps are a little quieter, even if it doesn't sound like that to you when you're actually playing with them. But yeah, just keep that in mind. And I think that about does it. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. And do we? Ooh, okay, 1. Come on. Oh, no. Ooh, okay, that's weird. Huh. Why not, FMJ? Why am I gonna use that on a pistol? Doesn't matter. Hope you guys enjoyed this little video. Drop a like and all that good stuff, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.